Today we'll be learning how to make this overbought corset with buttonhole illusion at the center. In this tutorial you also learn how to add regular boning to your corset. So let's just get right into the tutorial.
Library Trust tutorial. Today we'll be learning how the easiest way to make a corset. There are several ways of making corsets, but this way is what I found the easiest. So I'm just going to share this with you guys. Okay, so if you have not subscribed to our channel, kindly do so that you get notification anytime we upload a new video. So let's get right into the tutorial. I've already marked her chest line 9 inches. Her bust point is 10 and a half. The bust point, the under bust we're working with is 14 inches. The half length is 16 and a half, and our full length is 24 and a half. Okay. So this is basically the measurements we're working with. I'll be using the direct method. We're just going to be placing our cup on it. Like I said, this is the simplest method I've seen so far. So to do this, on our bust point, we'll take half inch. Okay, watch carefully what I'm doing. On our bust point here, I'm just going to take half inch here, and upwards on the bust point also I'm going to take 1.5 inches. Okay, so this is 1.5 inches. I repeat my half inch again, and then I'm going to make this into a straight line. So that is going to guide me. My cup is not going to go into this line. So when I'm through with doing this, I'm just going to take my bra cup. I'll mark the center points of the bra cup. Okay, this is already marked. So this is my center point here, and I'm just going to place this on my under bust line. Remember, this is the under bust line. Okay, and remember, when you're placing this, it must not enter into your, okay, let me just try to turn this like this so that we can see it clearly. It must not enter into your marked half inch. So I'm just going to place this here, right here now, using this as my guide. I'll make sure it doesn't enter it. Then I'm going to just cup it like this. I'm going to raise my cup up like this, and when I'm sure that I have what I have, I don't want it to be lying flat on my chest. That's why I'm just going to do this. Okay, so when I'm sure that I have this, I'm just going to mark it round. So with this method, it is very easy and is very effective, because you can actually place your cup anyhow you want it. Remember, there are some cups that are always bent like this towards the head. So any shape you want, you just need to just arrange it. When you have what you want, you mark it round. So it's as simple as that. So I'm just going to place this. I'm just going to do the normal regular cup using this as my guide. I'm going to cup this up a bit, and then I'm going to draw this line round like this. Okay, so this is my under bust line, and then I'm going to use my marker to mark around my bra cup like this. Okay, and that's it. We have our bra cup marked round like that. So I hope we are able to get that. Okay, so now that our bra cup is marked, the next thing to do is just to take our normal dart. The normal dart that we take using our nipple to nipple measurement. The nipple to nipple measurement, also known as the bust span, in this case is 8 inches, divided by 2 is 4. So I'm just going to take 4 inches round like this, and then I'm going to make the 4 inches into a straight line. Okay, so on the waistline area, I'll take half inch for my dart, and then I'm going to connect this to my under bust and then back to my blouse length. Okay, so that's to the under bust, and then to my actual blouse length. So that is basically what we're doing. You can see this method is very easy. So after this, we just need to take our normal measurement. On the chest line, I'm going to take the bust measurement. The bust we're working with is 40, divided by 4 is 10 inches, and I'll add 2 inches allowance to it. The waistline we're working with is 34, divided by 4 is going to give me 8.5. So this is 8.5 right here. Remember we took 1 inch as our dart here, so I'm going to add the 1 inch back, and then I add the 2 inch allowance I added to the first one. And on the hip, on the blouse line, I'm going to take our hip measurement. 44 inches divided by 4 is 11 inches, and then I'm going to add 2 inches allowance. So I'm just going to connect this using my curved ruler. Remember the sides are not straight. Okay. Okay, I'll smoothen this out because I don't want it all too sharp. And then I'm going to connect this to my armhole. This is not going to be having any long sleeve, so it's just a tiny sleeve, and I'm going to find somewhere around here to place it. So this is her allowance. Let me just read it so that we can see it clearly. This is our main measurement, and this is our allowance. So basically that is what we need to do. We're just going to cut this hat now, and then I'll move over to the back bodice. So to do the back bodice, we're going to rule. Okay, so for the back bodice, this is a zipper allowance, this is the waist measurement, this is the chest line, and I don't want the back bodice to be so low. That's why I just went down by 6 inches from the apex. Okay, so this is 6 inches right here. This is our chest line, 9 inches. This is her waistline, 16 and half, and her blouse length is 24 and half. We actually don't need the bust point and the under bust line here. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to take my dart like we did for the front. I'm going to be using 4 inches for my dart, and I'll make that into a straight line. Okay, so I'll make my straight lines. We have an allowance here because I'm trying to explain to us. For this tutorial, I'll not be using a zipper. I'll be making holes using my eyelet plier, but for the benefit of those that may want to use a zipper, that was why I put this zipper allowance. So I'll go to that by the time I finish taking my dart. So I'm going to take half inch on the waistline, and then I'm going to connect it to my blouse length and also to my chest line. Okay, so this is my chest line right here. I'm connecting my dart to my chest line also. Okay, so now back to our zipper allowance. For those that want to use zipper, I just like to take half inch from my not regular allowance to remove the bulge that may want to come at the back. So if you don't want anything to be bulky by the time you sew in your zipper, just take in half inch and it will take care of that. So that's why I'm taking in half inch from here. Okay, so I'm just going to take my measurements for the bust. I'm taking the bust measurement on the bust line, and my bust measurement is 40 divided by 4 is 10 inches. I had 2 inches allowance to it. On my waistline, 34 divided by 4 is 8 and a half. I've had a 1 inch allowance I took here, and also my 2 inches allowance for my side seam allowance. And on the hip line, I'll take 11 inches for 4 by 4 is 11, and I had 2 inches allowance to it. So I'm going to connect all this together like this. Remember I said I'll be using a loop. I'll be making O's like this. I'm actually replicating this dress, this corset top. This is what I made for my birthday, and I got a lot of requests for it, so I'm just going to replicate this. So let me quickly explain this. For the sleeve, like I said in the front, I'm just using a tiny sleeve, so I'll just find a way to place it here. And this is the back. You can see it's a bit higher than the front, and I'm going to be using my eyelet to make holes to pass through it. Okay, so to make our own, now it depends on how open you want the back to be. You can go as high as 3 inches, 4 inches, but for this tutorial I'll be using just 1.5 inches. So from my zipper allowance, I'll just be going in by 1.5 inches, so that by the time I open it up, remember it's on fold, it will turn to 3 inches. So if you want it really opened, you can go as high as 5 6 inches. So 5 inches mean you are taking 2.5 each on each point. So I'll be taking 1.5 inches right here. And okay, before I do that, let me just shape my neckline. My across back is 12 inches. You need to take that measurement and divide by 2 on fold is going to give me 6 inches. So I want my back, remember I already took 6 inches, I don't want it to be too low, so I'm just going to take 8 inches. So you have to take this up, remember you can't take your 8 inches here, it will be too low. So you place your 6 inches, remember you've taken 6 inches, or you just take 2 inches like this. So I took my 2 inches already, and I'm going to connect it to my 6 inches across back measurement using my curved ruler. Okay, and then I'm going to mark my armhole like this, connect this to my chest line. Okay, so the last thing to do is to just take my back opening. Like I said, I'm taking 1.5 inches on each point, so I'm taking 1.5 here. On our waistline, remember we already went in by 1/2 inch, so if I take 1.5 here, the 1/2 inch that I'm taking it for the bunch, I'm going to take it also here. Okay, and on my blouse length, I'm going to take 1.5 inch also. So I'm going to connect all this. This is for those that want to use loops, or you want to use your highlights to make holes for your corset. If you are using a zipper, you don't need to do all this, you just need to take your normal zipper allowance. And with this we are done. So this is our back bodice and this is our front. So now I'm just going to cut this out, then I'm going to bring it back to show us. Okay, so before I completely cut this off, I forgot to add on our hemline. I don't want it to be just flat like this, so here I'm going to go up by 2 inches. You can go by 1, 3, 1.5, or however you want it to be. And then using my slant ruler, I'm going to slant it a bit. I'm sure you've seen this in blouses, because I don't want the hemline to just be flat like that. And on the front pattern also, I'll repeat the same thing. I'll go up here by 2 inches, and then I'm going to slant this to my center front using my curved ruler. Okay, so now I'm just going to cut this off, and then we'll see what we have. Okay, so I'll remove my back cup first. I just want to show us how I cut this, so that by the time I bring it back, it will not be confusing. Okay, I've removed this now, and then I'm going to remove my dart. So this is my side front, and this is my center front. You can label this. Okay, so I'm going to do the same for the back also, and then I'll add my allowances. Okay, so this is my front panel after cutting the darts off. So if you place our cup, you can see that it will sit right into the space that was provided for it. So it will look like this by the time we sew it. And you can see that our cup, this is the center, we sit right into it like this. And this is the back panel also. I've taken up the space that I need for my loop. and also I took off the dart here. So I'm going to add allowances to everything now and then bring it back to show us. So this is my front panel. I've added allowances onto it. So let me just explain this to you. This is the main panel. I added half-inch allowance around this half-inch on the cup area. Also, you can see this is the original pattern here. I placed this on another pattern and I added half inch on this side. So remember, we are going to be joining the center front, and on the hemline I added 1 inch allowance as my hemming allowance. So I went ahead to cut my main fabric, and I'm using doll face material, so I'm using the same material for both the lining and the main bodies. So I've cut my the four of it, that's two for lining and two for the main fabric, and I ironed just gum stay on it. Depends on how much you want to spend on your corset. You can actually iron soft wadding if you can afford it. Okay, and for the side front I also added allowances to it. Remember, for the side we've added our allowance already when we were drafting it. So I added half-inch round this, and on the hemline, like this center front, I added 1 inch allowance to it. Okay, so I did the same for my back bodies. This is the center back, and I added half-inch round, and on the hemline I added 1 inch, and I went ahead to cut four for my fabric, and then I added gum stay to it. Also for the side back I added half-inch allowance all round. The side allowance has already been taken care of when we were drafting, and I added 1 inch for my M allowance, and I went ahead to cut four of this also for my main fabric. Also for my cup, I've cut my cup and I ironed gum stay on the lining and soft wadding on the main fabric. You can actually iron soft wadding on the main fabric or hard wadding depending on how much you want to spend on your corsets, like I said. So I'm just going to take this to the sewing machine now and sew them to their right places. Okay, remember this is the center front, so the center front and the side front will go like this. I'm going to sew this together like this, and then I'll bring it back to show us, and I'll do the same for the back. I'll press it open and then bring it back to show us the next thing we're going to do. So I've ironed open all the seam allowance like this. These are the bra cups. I've sewn them, and also this is the lining, this is the main bra cup. I've attached the bra cup inside my fabric. There's a video on how to do this. I'll put that in the description box in the comment section. Okay, so everything has been ironed flat, both the lining and the main fabric. Now we want to add boning to our corset. Boning just gives it structure, it makes it lay very well, it makes it clinch the body and makes it more beautiful. So I'll be working with this regular boning. It is, you can sew on it. Let me try to, okay, you can sew on it. You see this line that doesn't have any dotted point, that is where you sew on. So you can actually sew on it. So I'll just put it on my seam allowance like this at the midpoint. I'll leave half-inch up here for turning, and then I'm going to sew it in like this. When I get to the M line also, I'm going to leave half-inch for turning. So I'm going to add boning to all of them, just the main fabric. I had boning to it, and then I'm going to bring it back to show us. But before I go, quickly on the center front, remember the center front was slashed open. So on the center front I want to use this rope to add like loops. I want to use it to create like an illusion, a buttonhole illusion. I'll add loops to my center front like this. I'm going to add loops to it. Okay, so I'm trying to create this effect. Okay, so I'm just going to add loops before I sew them together. On one side of the center front I'll add my loops to it. Then when I'm done adding the loop, I'll just close them and sew them together so that I'll be able to add my boning also on my center front. Okay, so I'm going to do all that now and bring it back to show us. Okay, so I've added boning to the main bodies. This is the back bodies, and I left half inch on the upper part and also on the hemline for me to be able to turn it. So this is the second piece of the back bodies on the main fabric only. I added boning to it, and also on the front bodies I added boning, leaving half inch on both ends. This is the second part of the front, and on one of the front bodies I added the loops like this, so that I'll just place the second one on it and sew on it to turn it. So by the time I turn it, it will be neatly finished like this. And also I'm going to place this same rope. When I finish turning it, I'll just place this rope on it like this. I'll either sew on it with a black thread or just hold it with a gum. Also, I'm going to sew in my bra cups. Remember, it's a ready-made bra cup, so I'm just going to match the sewing thread together like this, and then I'm going to sew like this and also like this. So I'll sew in my bra cups. I'll sew the back up to the other side also, then I'll bring it back to show us how to join it. So majorly I'm just going to place the front bodice on the back bodice like this, and then we're going to sew it by the 2 inches allowance that were left. Okay, so I've I've added the straight loop, the straight rope that I was talking about. You can either gum it or sew it with a black thread. You cannot use a contrasting thread because it's going to show. And I've also sewn in my bra cups. So after sewing it, I trimmed it off so that it will not be packing. I want it to relax well. So I trimmed everything, and I also added boning to the center front. So I left half inch here to turn it in. Okay, so I've done all that now. The next thing for me is just to shape the sides. And also, if you notice on this side is not matching, like I've trimmed it here, so I'm just going to take my scissors and then trim it so that it can rhyme with the other one. Okay, you can see that it's already giving me the effect I want. I will do the same on the lining also, and everything that I've done here I've done on the lining. I've added my cup to my lining. I can see that it's even standing even without a bra cup inside it. So I've done all that. I'm going to trim off this also so that I can relax well. Then I'm going to bring in my back bodies main fabric together with the main fabric. I'll match it together. It has to match once you use the same pattern to cut both the lining and the main fabric. So you make sure that it's matching each other. Then the allowance that you use, I use 2 inches in this case. Whatever allowance that you use, that is what I'm going to measure. And I'm going to measure my 2 inches here, and I will use that to shape it on both sides. And I'm going to do the same. I'll take the other side also. I'll use 2 inches to shape it, and then I will do all this also on my lining. So by the time I finish it, I'll just use the lining to turn the main fabric. So I'll do that now and bring it back to show us. Okay, so I've sewn it by 2 inches. Remember, I left 2 inches allowance when I was drafting, you can see. So I used the 2 inches to sew it on the sides, and also for the strap I just got a long group of 12 inches by 4 inches. So I turned it and I sew it like this to the front and the back on the armhole area. So I did the same for the lining. I've also turned the lining. I've also shaped the lining, sorry, I shaped it on this side. So now to turn it, I'm just going to place them on each other, right side facing the right side. This is the right side of the lining, and this is also the right side of the main fabric. So I'll place it right side facing the right side, and I'll start matching them together. So on the side seam, I'm going to take the side seam like this. If this allowance is too much for you, you can trim it off or you notch it so that it can relax. So this side seam, I'm going to match it together and then pin. Also on the center front area, I'll match it together and pin. Everything has to match because we took the same, we used the same measurement to cut both the lining and the main fabric. So on the side seam here also, I'll open the stitches and match them together. And do not forget to iron every step of the way. It just makes it neater and easier for you to work with. So on the back area also, I'll just tuck in my sleeve like this, and then match the back piece together and pin. So we are just going to match everything. You go to the downside also, you match, look for the center front, match the center front together, pin it, and then you continue pinning like that. So everything have been matched together. You can see they are all equal. This is the center back, these are the front part, the upper part, this is the back, this is the center back of the other side, and the hem line also matches. So what I'm going to do basically is just to sew everything round like this. I'll sew it round, then I'll leave small space in one of the center backs for me to turn it out. So I'm just going to take it to the sewing machine and sew it round. I'm just going to sew everything round, and then I'll turn it out and bring it back to show us. So I've sewn it round. You can see they are all sewn round now, and I left this small opening here to turn it out. So I'm just going to notch it round, notch everything so that it will lay flat. Then when I notch it, I'll trim off if possible. Then I'm going to turn everything out. So on this small opening, I'm turning it out now. Okay, okay. So I'm turning it out. I'll just try to arrange everything and then take it to the ironing table and iron it. But before I iron it, remember I turned out from this small opening. So I'm just going to take it to the sewing machine and sew very closely, or you can also hem it with thread and needle. So everything is turned out, and you can see that it is neatly finished. So you just turn it out neatly and take it to the ironing table to iron it so that everything can lie flat for you. Okay, so you can see that it is neatly finished both in and out. This is the lining part. This is the lining part, neatly finished. This is the hem line. This is the side. That's the center back, and this is the front, the main front. So I'll take it, I'll close this opening that I used in turning it out. I'll close it up, and then I'll iron everything out. I'll bring it back to show up. Then I'm going to add eyelets on this side to be able to tie it at the back. So everything has been turned now, and I'm going to iron it. There's no power presently, so I just have pressed it a bit. You can see it's a bit relaxed now. Okay, so you're just going to iron it. You iron the cup area also, and that is how you make your overbust corset. So on the back part, I'm just going to use eyelet plier to press it open just like this. So I'm going to open it. I'm going to put up a video, the description of a video on how to use an eyeless plier in the comment section down below. So you can decide to embellish it however you want, with whatever you wish. You can use trimmings or lace fabric like this. So you can embellish with whatever it is that you want to embellish with. So you can give this a try and let's see what you come up with. Thanks for watching. Kindly like and subscribe to our channel to get notified anytime we upload a new video. See you in the next one. Bye.